Welcome back, brethren and sisters and brothers and visitors. Welcome back. We are now continuing. In fact, we are at this point in the last chapter of our study of the prophecy of Hosea. So we have went from chapter 1 and we have done 13 chapters, and we are now in the last chapter, chapter 14. Welcome back, Sister Heavenly Garden, Brother Hines. Shalom and peace and Shabbat peace to you all. Shabbat shalom. Yes, we are in the last chapter of this book. Now, originally, I had planned on actually studying Amos after Hosea, but I think what I want to do is I want to go to the next book, which is Joel. I want to go to Joel because Joel is another prophetic, powerful book. This one is not necessarily focused on just the northern tribes. It's the whole nation. And actually, when you look at it, you also can see it's really, if it's the area of focus, is on Judah. But I want to read that because it's prophetic, and it, of course, relates to us. Again, all of Israelite prophets relate to us at the end, who are awakening to who we are as the true nation, the scattered people of Abraham, Isaac, and finally Jacob, who became the nation of Israel. Who became the nation of Israel. So I want to finish Hosea and then go into Joel. And again, to us who are Israelites, who are followers of the faith of righteousness according to the King James Bible, in Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, of the 12 tribes of Israel, to us who are followers of Yah, what makes the Bible special is its ability to prophecy. That's what makes it different from every other book. That's what makes it different from every other religion. Its ability to prophecy. And that prophecy guides us, you and I, who are followers of Yah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That prophecy guides us in these last days in which we live. For example, the word of the Most High taught us about the power that would come after Rome rose to power as a religious power. And this power would be a government that would be worldwide in its influence. It would represent itself as a lamb, but it is really a dragon. It would lead the earth. That nation we know is the United States of America. It's the only nation that fits that description. So we have always challengers to the throne. In every earthly power, there are challenges to the throne. For example, some of you may not remember, because some of you may not have been born or may have been too little to remember, but in the 80s and 90s, the biggest threat to American power was Japan. You may not know that. You may not realize that now. But if we lived during that time, you remember they were producing things. They were selling things. We were in debt to them. The biggest challenge to American power was Japan in the 80s and 90s. This is just like in the last 30 or 40 years. Now, the biggest threat to American power is China. Before Japan, it was Russia. Russia was the big threat to American power. In fact, it was because of Russia that we had what is termed the Cold War. The Cold War was where these two nations would not directly fight each other, but they would fight each other through other nations. So in other words, the war in Vietnam was really a war between the United States, China, and Russia. It was fought in Vietnam. Okay. So that, you know what I'm saying? So that's and then every time you have a dictator that's taken over a country in a military style coup, that dictator is backed by United States, China, or Russia all the time. Okay. And so there's a global geopolitical Cold War continuing between these powers. But the Bible shows us that the U.S. is the victorious one as far as that. Okay. And so you could have many threats to power. You know, people are always doing videos about how China is going to beat the U.S. and the U.S. is going to fall. According to Bible prophecy, it's the U.S. that's going to win. It's going to always win until it loses when it comes against the Hebrews. Okay, when it tries to force the religious dogmas of the system on the Hebrews. That's when it crosses the line. That's the mark of the beast. That's when it changes and it cannot come back. Okay? And it's prophesied that it will do that once the 144,000 are sealed. And we know that the sealing is the spirit of the Father's righteousness. We're the only people on earth that know that. No other religion knows that. Okay? And that what makes the Bible different from every other book. It shows us what's coming and where we are now. Where are we now? According to Bible prophecy, we are in the sixth church, the sixth seal, and the sixth trumpet. We are at the position where he is now raising up the true Israelites, and that those that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, are being exposed. That's Revelation chapter 3. That's Revelation chapter 6 and 7. That's Revelation chapter 9, 10, and 11. That's where we are. The Bible prophesies of this. The Bible says that the true Israelites are, he says, what he calls us? His hidden ones. We're being hidden from the earth. Nobody recognizes or wants to admit who we really are. And when you look at our situation as so-called African Americans or Afro-Mexicans or Afro-Panamanians or Afro-South Americans, when you look at that, the United States, the so-called Afro-Americans, listen to me carefully. They're the only group of people on the entire planet Earth that cannot tell you what their origins are. That's not by accident. In other words, my family, in part, comes from Jamaica. So that if you ask some of the people in my bloodline, my literal bloodline, they will tell you we're Jamaican, and they're proud of that. We're Jamaican. But they don't think about where they came before Jamaica. Where were you before Jamaica? Before Jamaica was founded? Where in Africa did you come from? They don't know. Some of them from Ethiopia with Haile Selassie, them the Rastafari. Some of them following white Jesus. That's the most of them. They don't know. If you ask a person from Poland, where are you from? Poland. They can go back generations, 1,000 years, Poland. They could tell you what the country was called before it was called Poland. That's where they're from. Russians can tell you the same thing. That's the Russian area. That's the Caucasian motherland. They could tell you where they come from. France. Okay. The Alemanni were the Germans. The Anglos who became Anglo-Saxons. They could tell you all their history. Where they come from. How did they get to the U.S.? They could tell you that. But you ask the so-called African Americans, where you from? Well, somewhere in Africa they took us. Where? I don't know. What was your language? I don't know. What was your name? I don't know. Where were you before they brought you here in chains? I don't know. That's purposely done by the Most High. I know that's going to shock some of you. That's purposely done by the Most High. Why? Because we're Israelites. That's why. We're not supposed to be from anywhere else. That's why. You understand? We're not supposed to be from anywhere else. That's why we don't know. That's not accident that we don't know, except they took us from Africa. The fact that they took us from Africa is telling us how we got to Africa. We were scattered there. just like Niger, just like Simon of Cyrene, the Ethiopian eunuch, the Apostle Paul, Moses, Joseph, Abraham. We were scattered there. Okay? Bible tells us that. That's what makes it different from every other book. No other book can tell you that. Oh, yeah, the Apocrypha mentions it, but not the way the rest of the 66 books does. It augments the 66 books, but it's not as deep as the 66 books in actually telling us who we are, how we ended up here. We're the only persons, human beings on planet Earth in that position. And why is it just the U.S.? Even the Aborigines, they were already in that land when the Europeans came and took it over and tried to wipe them out. You hear what I said? Tried to wipe them out. They were already in that land when the Europeans came. Okay? All of us who were brought into these Caribbean islands and South America and Central America and North America, we can't tell you where we were before that. We can't tell you. And that's purposely done because Yah is telling us where we come from. Yah is telling us who our fathers were in his word. And he's telling us how we got here in his word. And he's telling us what our position is here. He's saying people are going to come into the land that you are slaves or that you were slaves in and get high above you. Other strangers will come and get above you. He says that in Deuteronomy. Other strangers from other lands will come to the land that I put you in with your enemies, and they'll get higher than you. That's why we can have segregated neighborhoods, red line neighborhoods, and people from Asia can open up businesses where we can't open them. People from Asia can come into those neighborhoods and gain money from those poor neighborhoods, opening up delis and opening up Chinese food stores and open up restaurants, and you and I cannot. It's prophesied. Okay, it's prophesied. Not their fault. Not our fault. It's not because we stupid and they smart. It's prophecy. He told us that in his word. He told us that. That's what makes this book different. That's what makes this book for us the book. It will guide us. It's not just principles of what is right and wrong, which is important. It's not just teachings of wisdom, which is important. It's prophetic utterance. Okay, it's prophetic utterance. Everything that we have talked about in prophecy, we have gotten every bit of it from this. And y'all could bear witness. We have gotten every bit of it from here. And you had to leave here to get everything that we need to know. Okay? That's why I say, read this book, especially you Hebrews. I'm telling everybody to read the book, whether you're Hebrew or not. But I'm saying, especially the Hebrews. Why? Because the book is about you. Do you understand? The book is about you. You're the principal people of this book. I used to have people in Harlem because back in the day, when I first became a Christian, I used to preach on the streets of Harlem, like Malcolm X used to do. I used to preach on 125th Street in Harlem. I used to be on 125th and 8th Avenue. They used to have stores where you, back in the day, I don't think they have it like that anymore, but back in the day, the pizza parlors, you could walk up to the window and order the pizza and the soda for $1 something. And you have stores like that and people be, staying in the window. And then you have little shops. And then on Saturdays, you have people all over the street and they'd have their sell whatever they selling, jeans or pictures or paintings. It'd be right there on 125th Street, all up and down, especially between 8th Avenue and go all the way down to the Marqueta. And y'all know what I'm talking about when I say the Marqueta. At the bridge there, where the train station was that went, I think it was Metro North, there was a Marqueta. They'd sell meat there. They'd sell stuff there. So you had your Spanish people starting right there. I used to preach out there. And I'd have people walk up to me often. Why are you preaching about that white man's God? Bible's for the white man. They were speaking out of ignorance because they had never read it. Because if they had read it, they would understand The Bible is not about the so-called white man. It's about them. They are the principal people of this book. Okay? And again, it was hidden from us. How was it hidden? In plain sight. You see what I'm saying? That's how they hid it from. They hid it from us in plain sight. They told us about a white Jesus and that we were savages and heathens in Africa living in huts. And we were ignorant savages that they had to, what they call it? They had to civilize us. And they were lying to us. And they were telling us it's all in this book. Problem they have is we learned how to read. When we learned how to read, first Nat Turner learned how to read. They messed up when they taught that brother how to read because he started reading this book and he started understanding who he was. That's what happened with Nat Turner. He started reading this book and he started understanding who he really was. And when he learned that, the slave masters had a problem. And they still have a problem when we learn this book. Okay? They still have a problem. Because the book is about us. It's our history book and our future prophetic position book. Okay? When you understand that and you come from that premise, you look at it completely different. I myself was brainwashed in the sense that I was looking at the book at the eyes of a Christian, particularly in my particular case, with the eyes of a Seventh-day Adventist. I was looking at the book from what Ellen White taught me and what the so-called Adventist pioneers taught me. But when I understood by the Spirit of the Father that this book was a history of my people, everything looked completely different. Completely different. Blinders came off. And it was never going to be the same again. Okay? So that's what makes this book different from every other book. There's no ecumenical in this book. We don't all serve the same God. We're not created to serve all the same God. There are a lot of people that are born in different countries that the Most High will save because they don't know any better. But we are different. Again, the next time you see us, we wild on the street or we robbing and stealing, we're in our enemy's land, y'all. We're behind enemy lines and we're brainwashed and we don't know who we are. You can always control persons that don't know anything about themselves. If you take away their identity, you take away who they are, you can make them into anything you want. And that is what happened to us. But there is a spirit of a creator that is our creator. And he has prophesied in this book in many places, which we're going to read today, about us waking up from our stupor, from waking up and breaking the chains of our brainwashing, to recognizing who we are, to having the understanding why we were gathered together in ghettos and they tried to destroy us, from having understanding how they tried to poison us and give us disease and eliminate us, and they cannot. Just this week, in fact, I believe it was announced yesterday on Friday, the 26th of November, 2021. It might have been the 25th, but I know it was definitely by the 26th they announced, check this out, that Europe announced and the United States announced that it's suspending flights from 7 countries, all African countries. It's suspending flights from these countries to these nations, to the European nations and to the US. Why? Because they said the Delta variant is strong in these countries. I'm going to leave that there and let y'all chew on that. The countries where the birth rates are among the highest in the world. I'm going to let y'all chew on that. I don't want YouTube to smack me around. So I'm going to let y'all chew on that. 7 African nations, they're now suspending flights because of the Delta variant. That's not the original virus. That's the second one that's supposed to be stronger, right? So they're saying this is proliferating in these 7 African nations. Because of that, we don't want we're quarantining, basically quarantining from them. 7 nations where the birth rates are triple any European nation. Why would that be? One thing we know, brethren, one thing we know, just like Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, there is a God in heaven who reveals his secrets. And he's showing us what's going on. Okay. So now, Hosea. Before we go to Hosea 14, let's back up what we're talking about in Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah chapter 31. Well, now, Jeremiah 31 is 40 verses long, so we're not going to read all of it. I don't even know where to begin. There's so much in. I would admonish you to read Jeremiah the prophet, and especially chapter 31. As a matter of fact, again, when we go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 8 is really quoting Jeremiah 31. Okay, just to let you know. So again, everything in the New Testament, when your eyes are open, you can see they're just telling you what the prophets are saying. Other religions are twisting for their own purposes. So in other words, the New Testament is being twisted by Christians who claim Messiah was the founder of Christianity, and they're just changing all the meanings. But when you actually cast that away and understand Messiah is a Hebrew of the tribe of Judah, he didn't found any new religion, then you can see all the prophets coming alive in the New Testament. Well, in Jeremiah 31, it's also being repeated in Hebrews chapter 8, just to let you know that. And then you read in context from chapter 5, and you read through chapter 8, boy, you'll see a lot more different things than what you might have been taught as a Christian. Okay, but let's take a look. I'm going to start off reading from verse 1. And I'm going to go down to verse 8, and then I'm going to skip because there's just a lot here. Okay, and I don't want to give you too much. This is a video, right? So I don't want to give you too much. So let's start at Jeremiah chapter 31 from verse 1 to verse 8. At the same time, saith Yahweh, will I be the most high of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. Thus saith Yahweh, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest. Yahweh hath appeared of old unto me, saying, yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness have I drawn thee. A few weeks ago, we did on the Hebrew Relationships channel, I asked a question about unconditional love. And some brothers and I went back and forth, and I agreed with them. I was wrong. There's no such thing as unconditional love in the Bible. But there is, as we see here, everlasting love in the Bible. That is a love that is eternal. That's different from unconditional love. Whereas unconditional love says, I'm going to love you and you can do whatever you want and I'm going to still love you. Everlasting love says it's a love that lasts eternally. And that is a life-changing love. I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Talking about Israel. Okay, in the context. Again, I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O virgin of Israel. Thou shalt again be adorned with thy tabrets, and thou shalt go forth in the dances of them that make merry. Thou shalt yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planters shall plant and shall eat them as common things. For there shall be a day that the watchmen upon Mount Ephraim shall cry, arise ye, and let us go up to Zion, unto the most Yahweh, our most high, Yahweh our Most High. For thus saith Yahweh, sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Yahweh, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the coasts of the earth, and with them the blind, and the lame, and the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return thither. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So he's talking, promising the whole gathering of the nation from the coast of the earth. From the coast of the earth. Okay? From the coast of the earth. Praise the Most High. Let's skip down and go from let's start at verse 23. There's a lot in between now. I hate to skip any of it, but for the sake of time, verse 23 of Jeremiah chapter 31. Starting at verse 23, I'm going to read from verse 23 all the way down to, verse 37. Okay, so we're talking about 15 verses really, from verse 23 to verse 37. So we're reading Jeremiah chapter 31 from verse 23 down to verse 37. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Most High of Israel. Again, who is this prophecy being written about, and who is he speaking to? Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Most High of Israel. Okay. As yet they shall use this speech in the land of Judah and in the cities thereof, when I shall bring again their captivity. Again, he's stating very clearly that Judah and Ephraim are in captivity, and he intends on bringing them out of their captivity. So you must look for people who are captive in nations they're not from. Okay? Who are the captives? Who are the oppressed? That's who you need to look for. You want to find Israel and Judah. And there's no people on the planet as oppressed, as captive, as the so-called African American. There's nobody like him that doesn't even know who he is, what language he used to speak, what nation he actually comes from. Nobody else on the planet. That's Judah right there. Okay, let's continue. When I shall bring again their captivity, Yahweh bless thee, O habitation of justice and mountain of holiness. And there shall dwell in Judah itself, and in all the cities thereof together, husbandmen, and they that go forth with flocks. For I have satiated the weary soul, and have replenished every sorrowful soul. Upon this I awaked, and beheld, and my sleep was sweet unto me. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. And it shall come, that doesn't mean we having sex with animals. Don't get it twisted. And it shall come to pass that, like as I have watched over them to pluck up and to break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, saith Yahweh. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But every one shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eateth the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant. Here is the new covenant that Christians claim to know. Here's the new covenant in Jeremiah chapter 31. That's also in Hebrews chapter 8. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. When Messiah said, this is the blood of the new covenant. This is what he's talking about. Remember that so-called communion that he had? That was with the 12 tribes who represented in the 12 apostles. And he said, this is the blood, this wine is the blood of the New Testament, or the New Covenant. Testament, covenant, synonymous. Okay? It's nothing to do with Christianity. They took it and created something out of it, but this is the original. A new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Again, with who? Did it say Ireland, Poland, Norway, Denmark, Russia? What did it say? House of Israel, house of Judah, who have been captives. Okay? Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. Again, he's identifying who these people are. Which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts. And I will be their most high, and they shall be my people. I'll put my law in their inward parts. Is that doing away with his law? No, it's not. You see why I say Christians worship a different God? This is the true new covenant. Let me just use Jeremiah as one witness for a second witness, because in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Let's look at another Hebrew Israelite prophet, Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 36 says the same thing that we just read right there in Jeremiah 31. So let's look at that. Ezekiel chapter, and the third witness will be Hosea himself. So here, the second witness, Ezekiel, the second Hebrew Israelite prophet witness, Ezekiel chapter 36, from verse 24 down to verse 27. I'm going to just read part of it. But 24 to 27 will give us the second witness here of what Jeremiah is saying and what we're going to see when we go back to Hosea chapter 14. Here we go. For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols will I cleanse you. Clean water represents what? Baptism. Here we go. Verse 26. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you an heart of flesh. Now watch verse 27. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgment and do them. That's the born again experience that Messiah was talking about when he talked to that Hebrew named Nicodemus. By the Spirit, we are brought into obedience. Here, Jeremiah is saying the same thing. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 33. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my law into their inward parts. That's, I'm pouring my spirit into you. And write it in your hearts. And will be their most high, and they shall be my people. Verse 34. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for they shall all know me. See, so you know that hasn't taken place yet, right? How do we know? Because we're still teaching the word. We're at the stage where we're teaching the word. He's not saying we'll never teach the word. He's saying among the Israelites, there's going to come a time when we don't need to teach each other the word no more. Because we'll all know him. We'll be sealed in his eternal spirit of perfect righteousness. And he's going to redeem us and bring us into our own land, which we were taken from, which we have been lost from, which we were scattered from because of the sins of our fathers in worshiping false gods. Here we go. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. That's where the Savior comes in. He saved the nation, and he saved the dispersed of the nation. Remember what he said? I'm going to bring back the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed of Judah. That's Isaiah chapter 11. That's another witness. Again, all the prophets agree. Praise the Most High. Okay. Verse 35. Thus saith Yahweh. Watch this now. Watch this now. For those say, well, the northern tribes are lost. We don't know who they are. And there's no more Israel. There's only spiritual Israel. Watch this. Jeremiah. Well, we already kind of got the idea already. That's falsehood from just reading what we already read. But let's look at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 35, right? 35 to 37. Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances, that is, you can stop the sun from rising and setting, you could stop the phases of the moon. Look what he says. If those ordinances depart from me, from before me, said Yahweh, then shall the seed of Israel also cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus saith Yahweh, if heaven can be above, can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith Yahweh. So if you could measure the earth, if you could stop the sun from rising and setting, you could stop the phases of the moon, then he's going to cast off Israel. In other words, it ain't happening. There's always going to be his seed, and he's going to bring us forth the seed, the bloodline, who were captives. Nothing's going to stop that. That's everlasting love. And how could he say that? He's the Most High. He's the original Alpha and Omega. He knows the end from the beginning. And let me just again remind you what that means. That means our Most High inhabits all eternity past, present, and all eternity future, all at the same time. There's no dimensions that limit him. So he can look already, he can hand Messiah a book of Messiah's future kingdom and say, okay, start unsealing this book. And he already knows whose names are written in that book. He already knows that. He doesn't reveal it to Messiah. That's why Messiah is unsealing it. He already knows those of us going to be in the book and those of us that won't, because he is past, present, and future all at the same time. He has to know. He can't help but know. So he's telling us, at the end, I'm going to gather you together from all the nations, from all the coasts of the earth. I'm going to bring you back. You're my chosen people, Jacob's children. That's what he's saying. And through the Hebrew Messiah, the line of the tribe of Judah, I'm going to bring you back as a nation. I'm going to cause my spirit to come upon you through him, and you're going to obey me. I'm going to give you a kingdom, and all the nations of the earth will know that you belong to Yahweh. Yes, I had to put you in slavery because y'all was stubborn, y'all was stiff-necked, and y'all was wild. But I'm going to recover you. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. There's no disease, there's no war, there's no plans, there's no poison, there's nothing they can do to stop it. It's going to happen because it was prophesied. And now, as we are now aware, he's also showing us the seasons of the end, isn't he? He's also shown us. He's gave us a major sign in August of 2017. Those of us paying attention. There was a full eclipse in August of 2017, August 22nd to be exact, which was the first day of the Hebrew 7th month, which is what? The Day of the Trumpets, which is in preparation for what? The Jubilee and the Day of Atonement 10 years later, 2027. We already know. Which is in preparation for what? The Feast of Tabernacles. See how deep this gets? See how prophetic it is? See how he reveals it to common dust like us? But not to anybody else? Everything I'm saying right now, only the Hebrews understand. Ashkenazis don't get it. Christians don't get it. Muslims don't get it. None of them get it. None of them will understand that. You know why? Because they're not the chosen. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which Yah gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yachanan, who bear record of the word of Yah and of all things which he saw. We're the only ones that know the things that I'm telling you right now. We're the only ones that know. what the feasts actually mean and where they are in Bible prophecy. And now we know the end is coming near. We're only awakening to this, not because we're smart. The Spirit of Yah is touching us and revealing it to us. Spirit, deep calleth unto deep is what the Bible shows us in Psalms. Deep calleth unto deep. His Spirit touches his people. He knows who his people are, and they're awakening to this. And those of you among the Gentiles who are ordained for eternal life, such as should be saved, he's telling you too, and you know it. You know it. Those that are not in denial, that are in multiple generation denial about what y'all really are and what y'all did and who we really are. Multiple generation denial. Those of you who are not in that know the truth. Okay? Not everybody going to be saved. It's a remnant. And there's a reason for that. Okay? Always has been a remnant. Praise the Most High. Now, let's go to Hosea chapter 14, which shows the last state of Ephraim. A prophetic utterance of the last state of the northern kingdom. Praise the Most High. Let's look at this in Hosea chapter 14, beginning at verse 1. Hosea chapter 14, beginning of verse 1. O Israel, return unto Yahweh thy Most High, for thou hast fallen by thine iniquity. Take with you words and turn to Yahweh. Say unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. Ashur shall not save us. We will not ride upon horses. Neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, ye are our gods. For in thee the fatherless find mercy. And now, this is what, so Hosea starts off the end of this prophecy pleading with his brethren. But then the Spirit of the Father not only inspires him, takes over his lips and begins to speak in the first person. Notice, I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from him. I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His trees shall spread and his beauty shall be as the olive tree. Notice again, he's using the olive tree to represent his nation. His smell as Lebanon. They that dwell under the shadow shall return, under his shadow shall return. They shall revive as the corn and grow as the vine. The scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? I have heard him and observed him. I am like a green fir tree. From me is thy fruit found. Who is wise? And he shall understand these things. Prudent, and he shall know them. For the ways of Yahweh are right. And the just shall walk in them, but the transgressors shall fall therein. Again, that goes 100% with what Daniel says in Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12, verse 10. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Brethren, praise Yah. Again, prophetic utterance is what makes this book different from every book on the planet Earth. He has not given prophecy to any other people, but to the Hebrew Israelite people of the book. That's what makes it different from any book. He has not given prophecy to anybody else. There's many that rise up claiming, right? Claiming prophetic utterance, but there's only one. He ain't giving it to Christianity, a man-made religion, nor Islam from Muhammad. He ain't give it to him. He give it to us. And those of us that are awakening in these last days to who we are, not Afro-Americans, not Negroes, we're the true Hebrews. And he's telling us about ourselves in this book called the Bible. And he gives us every step of what's going on. We know what the United States is. We know where it's headed. We know who we are and where we're headed. We know what the 12 tribes are and how they were scattered. We know what the world calls us, but we know what Yah thinks of us. Everything is in this book. Everything's in there. What we need to do is pray, repent, and read. Very simple, isn't it? Pray, repent, and read. And he will show us. Okay? Remember, the false gods and the false religions are all disguised as different forms of lambs. But there's only one true one, and we see it. The book tells us all about it. Tell us how to spot if you're in Satan's school and learning his doctrines or not. Okay? It's all here. And the prophetic utterance of where we are right now and where we're about to go in just the next few years, he has shown us. He is so gracious to us. Okay? He is gracious to us. And we give him the praise, the honor, and the glory. So, by the grace of the Most High, I pray that he continue to guide you in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Guide you in light in this world of darkness, this world of deceit and falsehood. That he guides you in his light. As Job said, by his light we walk through darkness. May he guide you and bless your path and cause you to be saved and redeemed with all of the host of the nation of Israel. May you be among them. Shalom. Always, Brother Williams, always, always, always. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High, yeah. Always. And I ask that y'all pray for me as well. Praise the Most High.